Hi, I'm Erin Stanton, and welcome back to Just Try It. If you're new here, hi. This is a channel where I challenge myself to just try pretty much anything. On today's episode, we are going to focus on recreating iconic looks from the female icons of the past 70 years, not including the 2020s. I know that's the decade we're in, not including that one. Starting in the 1950s to the 2010s, I am going to try to emulate makeup and hair trends from that era and also give you a slight sneak peek of the history of that time and my experience overall. The 7 icons that I've chosen are Marilyn Monroe for the 1950s, Priscilla Presley for the 1960s, Cher for the 1970s, Madonna for the 1980s, Cindy Crawford for the 1990s, Christina Aguilera for the 2000s, and Kylie Jenner for the 2010s. And I will go into why I chose each one in a little bit. I figured it would be a lot more enjoyable to watch if I just gave you a breakdown of every single look instead of you watching me put it all on my face, which was time consuming and boring. So I'm going to give you a rundown of the products that I used to recreate these looks. The base for all of them was pretty much the same. I'm going to actually go grab it. I totally forgot to grab it. I'm showing you these products mostly because I want you to be able to recreate them yourself if you so please. And also just to give you an indication of what I was working with and to kind of remind people that I am not a professional MUA, which is a very professional makeup artist if you're not familiar with that world. And I'm not a professional hairstylist, and I found out the hard way that I don't know how to use a curling iron. I don't know how to do hair. I have learned how to do my own hair through trial and error. Makeup, I learned the basics from my mother and kind of went on from there, as you can tell from my very basic makeup look. This was challenging, but in a way that I was not expecting. It's like challenging because I already knew how to do it, but I was pushing myself further. These are amateur looks, but I'm pretty proud of them. And I went off of reference photos, so it's not a generalized idea of the whole decade. It's simply from those female icons. Let's get on with the video. So the icon that I chose for the 1950s was Marilyn Monroe, actress, singer, all-around American icon. Her roles in movies typically consisted of that of a blonde bombshell. The role was more aimed towards eye candy rather than function. Her look typically consisted of bold, overlined red lip, minimal eye makeup, but very sultry, a little bit of a winged eyeliner, arched eyebrows, and as she called it, pillowcase white bleached hair. I dyed my hair red in March of 2022, and naturally I am a dirty blonde, so there was absolutely no way I was getting her white color, especially if she touched it with bleach every couple of weeks. But the makeup look was actually a little bit easier to manage. For the base, e.l.f. Skin Holy Hydration Face Cream. It's not really supposed to be like used as a foundation. It's more of a moisturizer before you put on makeup just to keep your face hydrated. However, I use it to combine with my e.l.f. Camo CC Cream foundation in the shade Fair 150C. Just because this is a full coverage foundation, meaning it's not lightweight, it's kind of heavy. So this creates a little bit more of it and then also makes it a little bit lighter on the skin and doesn't feel as heavy. Both of those I also combined with the NYX HD Studio Photogenic Concealer in green. It's a CW12. I have a lot of red undertones and my foundation is not the right color. I also, on my under eyes, I have a lot of bags. I used the e.l.f. Camo Color Corrector Concealer in the shade Peach. For blushes, I used a mixture of the e.l.f. Halo Glow Beauty Wand in the shade Rosé You Slay because they had to name it Rosé You Slay. I also used, of course it's not in here, I also used the Maybelline Cheek Heat Sheer Gel Cream Blush. I like the Cheek Heat a lot, especially because this is in the shade of Rosé or Rose Vibrant, which is number 20 for makeup people, which is kind of like a corally pink, which I think fits my face a little bit better, but I also like the e.l.f. one. So, and a lot of them were pretty consistent throughout all of the looks. The only difference, and I'm going to just say this now, get it out of the way, is I did not use the green color corrector in the 2000s look. Everyone in the 2000s, including the reference picture that I used of Christina Aguilera, was all about the fake tan. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm really pale. So I took out the color correcting green just to make my face look a little more orangey tan. I don't necessarily know if it worked. It was my least favorite look. That was the base for most of the looks. Marilyn Monroe is one of the greatest pop culture icons of our time. And the reason for that is because she was a massive actress and film star that people looked up to and were inspired by. Not as a person, but simply just as a symbol of what she represented. Which, by the way, was an incredibly sexual revolution. Women had to look perfect. Women had to fit the desires of what men wanted. And Marilyn Monroe, the image that was created for her by makeup artists, by hairstylists, by fashion designers, that was the standard. She was the bar. Everyone else rose to meet her. So for the look, I obviously went for a big, bold red lip. I believe I used the NYX Professional Makeup Lingerie XXL matte liquid lipstick along with the gloss. This was in the shade Untamable. I love marketing. I didn't use a lip liner. I just kind of overlined my lips a little bit and corrected here and there. I also used, and I use this a lot, bro. If you were wondering, this is my makeup bag. This has all of my makeup in it. Actually, not even all of my makeup. This is just the stuff that I use or normally use on a regular basis. There it is. Hello. I also used the e.l.f. Expert Liquid Liner in the shade Jet Black, and I just kind of went for a subtle cat eye. It's hard to see right now, but you'll see in the picture. Instead of extending out into my brow bone, it was a little hard. I tend to go out more, so it was good practice to try and keep it in. I also used a shimmer eyeshadow from an incredibly ancient eyeshadow palette. There it is. Isn't it glorious? I got this in the 10th grade, and it still has full palettes of eyeshadow. It was kind of easy. It was a little challenging just because of getting the placement of the eyeliner right, and also I had to line my eyebrows. So I used the e.l.f. Instant Lift Brow Pencil in the shade Taupe to try and like fill them in. So I used that to do the shaped arched brow. And yeah, it was relatively easy. I put the shimmer eyeshadow called Smitten in the inner corners just to give it some like a pop of color and to open my eyes a little bit because they were sunken into my skull. This is one of my favorite looks. It turned out really well. Let's go to the 60s. So Priscilla Presley, most famously the wife of Elvis Presley, she's actually one hell of a businesswoman and an actress. Still alive, thank God. A movie actually just came out. It's called Priscilla. It's by the director Sofia Coppola. Definitely go and watch it. I haven't yet, but I really want to. I've heard nothing but good things. Really just shows how much Elvis influenced her look and style, which in the 60s was defined by a huge bouffant hair and graphic cat eyeliner. I, again, don't know how to do hair, so the bouffant hair was kind of out of the question. I put my hair half up, half down, and left. I have bangs and curtain bangs. Bangs, by the way, for people who are not hair people that don't know, bangs are here, curtain bangs go here. So I kind of put my hair half up, half down, barring my bangs, and then kind of pushed it up a little bit to give it some volume, and then put it on the back of my head with a clip. The makeup, though, weirdly, with the very graphic cat eyeliner, easiest thing I've ever done. I loved that liner. I just followed what she did. Granted, I didn't necessarily do it right. In the reference picture, graphic liner goes from the corner of the eye up to the bottom of the brow bone, so the top of the eyelid. I just followed along. I did a cat eye, because that's what a cat eye is. You followed the line of your lid. I just did what I felt was right, and then I looked at the reference picture and went, Well, that wasn't necessarily what I was supposed to do. But that was actually really easy. I did a full cat eye. Most graphic liner I've done in like months. Fantastic. Show-stopping. I was so proud of myself. For the lips, she kind of had, in the reference picture, she kind of had a lined lip. And so I used a really old mini lipstick that my stepmom had in like the early 2000s. I believe it's in the color Bread. It's like a really dark, I used it again in the 90s era. It's like a dark brownish purple, more brown than purple. But I took a brush and I just lined my lips with that and then put a nude lipstick over the top. And I was just like, yeah, this is good. This works. This one I'm really proud of only because of the graphic eyeliner. The 60s were super bold, and I feel like Priscilla Presley's looks kind of matched that boldness. That was why I picked her as the icon. There were also a couple other icons at the time. Twiggy, who was known for her really graphic liner, she was a model, and also Jackie Kennedy, the first lady and wife of John F. Kennedy. Let's move on to the 70s. So the 70s were really when color went crazy, and I mean like crazy. And who better to demonstrate insanely incredible makeup looks than Cher herself. Cher had these incredibly articulate makeup looks done by different makeup artists over the years, specifically over the decade. The reference photo I used had a lot of blue eyeshadow and like a coral lip, which I believe is the product of the aging of the magazine cover and the photo. I just tried to do that as best as I could, and it was kind of like a red, white, and blue kind of thing, so you'll see in the photos. I used the e.l.f. bite-sized eyeshadow palette in ICU. Get it? Because acai you. No, I know, it's stupid. So I used that all around my eyes, and I really just tried to cake it on, especially because I'm so pale that it was so light. It just would not show up. I could not get it to show up. I used that. I also used the Smitten color again over my eye, on my forehead, and also down my temples. Went for more of that corally pink blush, so the Cheek Heat gel cream blush on my cheeks lower. Normally I put it up on my cheekbones just because I have a rounder face, but I put it on the avils of my cheeks. And no eyeliner. I went for like a darker color. There's a grayish blue in this palette, so that was just what I used. It was fine. Wasn't my favorite, probably because of the hair. So I've already mentioned I have bangs, I have curtain bangs. My hair is built for the one, the only original Charlie Angel, Farrah Fawcett, 70s icon, specifically for hair, not for makeup. If you look at her makeup, it's super basic. Is that a person? Her makeup looks super basic, but her hair, I mean, her hair was legendary enough to the point where my dad and my stepmom, quite literally, that is like the one person that they can name like that. Like they just know who she is. So I kind of aimed for that. I thought my hair already kind of looked like it. It did not, but it kind of looked like some of the other inspo pictures that I had found, so I just kind of went for it because unfortunately I do not have long, beautiful hair like Cher. So I kind of went for a Farrah Fawcett look. So the 80s are everyone's favorite decade. Like if you asked my dad, he would tell you that the 80s were the best decade ever. I beg to differ. However, he grew up in the 80s. I think he's a little biased. My mom has said that she loved the 80s. The 80s was everyone's favorite, and it plays a very significant role in modern pop culture. 80s music, 80s looks, 80s clothes, especially like the off-the-shoulder styles. It's very ingrained. It was a very, very pinnacle moment in American pop culture. Hair in the 80s was as big as possible. We went from the casual, volumed lift of the 50s, and I say casual because it wasn't grandiose like the bouffant style of the 60s. It was just kind of like a natural volume and a natural lift. And then the 60s and the 70s got bigger. The 80s were when everyone just went absolutely The tutorials that I was given told me to use as much mousse, as much gel, and as much hairspray as physically possible. Advice from my parents was backcombing, a ton of backcombing, hairspraying, hair drying, super big on the sides, super big up on the top. And if you'll notice from the photo that I'm going to put right here, I did not do that. Did I backcomb? Yes, I did. My hair is too precious to go crazy. So, obviously, I had to have inspiration from somewhere. I have a slight personal connection to who I chose as my female icon of the 80s. I don't personally know her, but weirdly enough, I went to the same middle school and high school that she did. The female icon of the 80s that I've chosen is none other than Madonna. I view her as the epitome of the era. Her hair, massive. She's a huge artist. She's known for hits like a Virgin, and if you don't know who Madonna is, Google is free. She was one of the first female artists to redefine and reinvent herself with every album release, and women now in the music industry continue to do that ever since. In the 80s, though, she rocked it. The big hair, the aggressive backcomb curls, the bold, extremely obnoxious makeup. As the reference picture will show you, yeah, no, she knew what she was doing. So I used for the lip, the super bold lip, I just overlined my lips and used the Maybelline Superstay ink crayon in Settle for More. It looks like a very dark purple. It's actually not. It's very pink. I also used a Morph palette that is numerous years old. It has really good pigmentation, especially because her eye makeup look was super pink and purpley, and that's what most of the colors in that palette were. I'm pretty proud of myself on this one. It was super easy, you know, the eyeliner wasn't that dramatic. I could have used a touch more blush, especially because I think, especially in the picture, it looks like whatever makeup stylist she had just absolutely went crazy. I think I slayed. Moving on to the 1990s. The 1990s was kind of the era of the supermodel in terms of fashion and what was cool, considered high fashion, classy, whatever you want to call it, and what was not. And supermodels like Naomi Campbell and the female icon of the decade that I'm designating were huge in creating that standard. Female icon of the 90s, however, that I chose is none other than Cynthia Ann Crawford. Cindy Crawford was another supermodel, part of the Big Six, which was originally with Naomi Campbell, the Trinity of supermodels. And I mean, she was everywhere. Pick something, and she was there. Her makeup was relatively basic, smoky, kind of winged eye, nude lip, that happened a lot, and her hair was fresh out of the salon blowout with volume that didn't quite reach what the 80s asked of women, but it was still there. It was still there. Unfortunately, my hair doesn't get that volume either. But the makeup look was pretty easy. I used black eyeshadow again. I went for the same lipstick that I used in the 60s when I did my 60s makeup as a lip liner. And I think it turned out pretty well. I mean, it's not hard to mess up a smoky eye. I went a little too thick on the eyeliner. I used the liquid liner again, and I went a little too thick. Anyways, for the hair, I kind of tried to mimic Cindy Crawford's blowout while also keeping my middle part, and I think it turned out pretty well. So for the 2000s were an incredibly interesting decade. Let's just say it was pure chaos. We went from the 90s to the 2000s, and if you look at outfits from the 2000s, you'll just get the overall vibe. Who better to show the chaos and the standards of the 2000s than none other than Christina Aguilera. She's a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, and in the 2000s, she was one of the most prominent pop stars of the decade. And her look in the 2000s kind of resembled the chaos a little bit, because it was very like diva-ish and more and dark and kind of just more, not brooding necessarily, but just smoky eye, super tan, pale, almost concealer-ish instead of lipstick-ish lips, and straight hair. That was essentially the look that everyone copied. The fake tan, the terrible fake tan. So recreating this look was not fun. I struggled. It was not fun. I did not enjoy it at all. I just went orange. I did the smoky eye. I put so much concealer on my lips that I was like scrubbing afterwards to get it off. And I think that's all I'm gonna really say on it. It wasn't my favorite. I did a good job. It wasn't my favorite. The 2010s. Finally, I didn't actually think we'd get here. The female icon that I chose for the 2010s was none other than a member from the family that got famous simply for existing, Kylie Jenner. I picked Kylie Jenner because this was the decade that I spent my formative years in. Spent the 2010s, girl, I grew up in the 2010s. Those were my formative years. Those are the years that I most remember. I mean, we're talking looks that are heavily contoured and airbrushed. This was the social media era. This was the beginning. Full glam, for those of us who don't know, is full coverage. We're talking fully coveraged foundation. Caked matte concealer. The foundation, by the way, also matte. Underneath the foundation and concealer, contour, bronzer, highlight to the gods, highlight to all that is good and holy above us, heavily eyeshadowed eye makeup, big overlined matte lip. I'm just gonna leave you with that image. Anyway, I did it, and I am proud of it because it was really hard. I've never actually used contour, and the contour I have, I've noticed, is not the right shade for my skin tone, but I put it on underneath the foundation, and it kind of also looks like it doesn't exist. I didn't follow a tutorial. I didn't want to. Hair, 2016 onward, everyone had a side part. We're not going to talk about it other than Kylie Jenner, I'm coming for your name. Tell me that I don't look good. That was the 2010s. I'm not going to go any further. This was my childhood, and by virtue, it is simply cringe to me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. That was 70 decades of makeup and hair. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.